this particular 92, the optic ready model, has so many QC issues that it just doesn't work. The first problem, and the most egregious problem, is that the slide was stuck in halfway if we have any kind of rigid grip panel installed. It was stuck halfway. Wouldn't be able to rack it. Second problem is the grip screw bushing coming out. They're supposed to be staying in place, but top two came out when I was changing the grip. This grip screw bushing came out completely, and this grip screw bushing came out halfway. The third problem is the gap in the back. With the factory barrel, the gap is super obvious when comparing to other 92s. The standard 92X Performance, the M984, the LTT didn't have this issue. But this one has a huge gap in the back between the slide and the frame. To make things worse, if I install a factory 92X 4.7-inch barrel, which works just fine any other three Berettas you saw, it would have a bigger gap in the back between the slide and frame. So this suggests that either the slide is out of spec or the frame's out of spec. And the frame was definitely not properly made because the grip screw bushing came out. And also the minor problem where the takedown lever wouldn't stay in place. And also the slide to frame fit is so tight that I have to yank it out of the slide if I want to disassemble it, or push really hard to assemble it. So I don't know if this is fixable. So this is the worst 92X Performance that I've ever purchased, and also the worst Beretta 92 that I ever purchased. Hello everyone. I really don't want to make this video, but Beretta is kind of forcing me to. I recently purchased two Beretta 92X Performance. They're really expensive guns, around $1,500. Really like the first one I got, one on the left. It's a regular model, not the most recent optic ready model. I like the gun, although it has some blemishes. Kind of disappointing. It's this kind of dimple on the underside of the rail. And also the front of the muzzle has some blend from the factory, and it was sold as a new gun, which is typical from Beretta QC nowadays. As somebody who purchased 5 Beretta 92s in the last 2 years, I kind of expect that, although it really disappointed me. But the main character today is the second one I got. I just got this last week. The gun looked good out of the box. I couldn't find any problem with it until I took it home and then found out there were lots of issues, major quality issues with the second 92X Performance, the carry optics model. Let's dive into it. Let me show you what a functional 92X Performance will look like. You know, everything looks just fine. You can rack the slide, double action trigger, no problem. I installed a lock grip Veloce wraparound grip. This is G10, and I only installed one grip screw just to make the video easier. This is a working 92X Performance. Now, let's take a look at this one. So this one looked okay out of the box. There was no major blend other than this sharp scratch on the bottom of the grip. This is really not supposed to happen on a $1,500 or $1,700 gun. So let me just show you. Everything works. You can rack the slide just fine. Let's swap the slide on this too really quick to show you how the problem manifests. So the first problem is this gun is extremely hard to disassemble and assemble. So this takedown lever wouldn't stay in place, which is the first time I have seen something like this. So when I would disassemble the gun, the slide just wouldn't move out freely. I have to yank the slide out, otherwise it will be stuck on the frame. So now let's put the optic ready slide on the non-optic ready frame. Went on just fine. Side pulse. As a matter of fact, I shot this combination, so the carry optic slide and the non-carry optic frame, you can see the serial number is different. I shot about 200 rounds, there was no malfunctions. So this combo works just fine. Now, let me put this slide back. So you can see it takes a lot of force to put on the slide on this particular frame because there was so much friction. Now let me show you the most egregious problem that I found. Hand tighten it. Now, seems just work fine, right? Now let's take a look at double action. You see the problem? The slide would just stuck right here and wouldn't go back. I'm pushing on it, pushing on it, pushing on it, pushing on it, wouldn't budge. Unless I yank it really hard. Now it worked. So this slide works just fine on this frame with the grip on, but this one was stuck halfway and wouldn't go back. Now let's try. See, the takedown lever wouldn't stay in place. Okay, so now let's put the regular slide on this optic ready frame. Went on just fine. Now let's test it. Works on just fine. It would not stuck halfway. There's no resistance, which is how it's supposed to be. So either it's the slide out of spec or the frame being out of spec, or both. Because this carry optic model, as is, will not function out of the box with the grip panel installed. But if I swap slide, both will work, which suggests that optic ready slide is out of spec or the optic ready frame is out of spec, or both. I don't think it's the grip, because this grip works just fine on the regular model and works just fine if I swap slide. So this gun has such a bad tolerance that if I put on a G10 grip, this problem would occur. Let me show you the other unacceptable problem. If I take out the grip, tell me what you see here. The grip screw bushing is coming out. The grip screw bushing is supposed to be staked in place. You can see about 4 staking marks on each. So they're not supposed to come out. But this one, just by unscrewing the grip screw, you see the grip screw bushing is coming out. It is supposed to be flat or flush, like the bottom one. And this is not the only one. This grip screw bushing comes out entirely, which suggests that they were not properly staked in place. You can see I can completely remove this, which is not supposed to happen. Now if we take a look at the bottom one, if I try to turn it, it wouldn't budge because they're not supposed to come out. They're supposed to be staked in place in the factory. I don't even know how this can be fixed other than sending it back to Italy, I guess. Now let me show you the third problem. I think it has to do with the slide being out of spec. So before we disassemble, let's take a look at this 92X performance. If we take a look at the back of the slide, there isn't supposed to be any gap in the back. The end of the slide and the end of the frame should be flush. This one has minimal gap. You can see the slide is a little bit forward. You can see the frame rail is a little bit exposed in the back. It's minimum. They're supposed to be flush. Now let me show you the other 2 Berettas I have. This is a LTT model. You can see in the back, this is completely flush. There's no gap between the slide and the frame. Let me show you the M984 that I shot a lot recently. Let me clean out the oil. You can see it's flush. I can feel a little bit gap, but just a little bit. You can't really tell, but it's there. So let's take a look at this one. You see the gap here? This is really obvious. There's a big gap between the slide and the frame, meaning that either the frame is out of spec or the locking block is out of spec. So the slide sits forward of the frame. I don't know if this will cause any safety issues. I hope not. Since I have two 92X Performance, should be the same gun except the optic cut, but this one has significant gap in the back. What makes things worse is when I want to use a different barrel. So this barrel is a Beretta 92X barrel, 4.7 inch. This is a barrel that comes standards on all 92X. All the 92s are supposed to be barrel interchangeable. So this barrel would work in any of these guns, and I have tested them. They work just fine. But if I put this barrel in, now you can see there's a huge gap in the back, and I can touch it. Now maybe it's the locking block of this particular barrel, but let's see what will happen if we put this 92X barrel in a different gun. Put it in this regular 92. There we go. The gap remains the same. This regular 92X Performance has a little bit gap in the back before. Switching to this 4.7 inch barrel didn't change much. So now let's put this barrel into a different 92. So let's try the LTT. LTT has the same barrel but in a different finish. There's no gap in the back. Same as before, no gap. Now let's try the M9A4. No gap in the back. See, still relatively flush to the back of the frame. So this just means that this particular 92, the optic ready model, has so many QC issues that it just doesn't work. The first problem, and the most egregious problem, is that the slide was stuck in halfway if we have any kind of rigid grip panel installed. It was stuck halfway. Wouldn't be able to rack it. On the double action, nope. Single action, work just fine. So this is the biggest problem. Second problem is the grip screw bushing coming out. They're supposed to be stayed in place, but top two came out when I was changing the grip. And the factory grip just doesn't work. They're way too slick, there's no texture. And they flop around because they're rubber. This grip screw bushing came out completely, and this grip screw bushing came out halfway. The third problem is the gap in the back. With the factory barrel, the gap is super obvious when comparing to other 92s. The standard 92X Performance, the M9A4, the LTT didn't have this issue. But this one has a huge gap in the back between the slide and the frame. To make things worse, if I install a factory 92X 4.7 inch barrel, which works just fine any other three Berettas you saw, it will have a bigger gap in the back between the slide and frame. So this suggests that either the slide is out of spec or the frame's out of spec. And the frame was definitely not properly made because the grip screw bushing came out. And also the minor problem where the minor problem of the takedown lever wouldn't stay in place. And also the slide to frame fit is so tight that I have to yank it out of the slide if I want to disassemble it, or push it really hard to assemble it. So I don't know if this is fixable. So this is the worst 92X Performance that I ever purchased, and also the worst Beretta 92 that I ever purchased. I bought 5 Beretta 92s in the last 2 years. All had problems and all had blemishes. The problem of the previous 4 Berettas were cosmetic, just shoddy quality control. I had bland slides or bland frame, but this one has multiple problems that made this gun unfunctional. So here you go.